Oh, Math 96. So today's November 10th. Tomorrow's November 11th. It is Veterans Day, so there's no school on Wednesday. Just a reminder again across out page 30 of your notebook. Okay, so we're going to do section 3.2, page 31 of your notebook. This is the second day. So if you have not listened to section 3.2, day 1, please go back and do that before you do this lesson. You have homework tonight. It's just 2 problems, page 164, number 15 and 16. All right, here we go. And please use, on your homework, please use the elimination method when you solve them, even though the directions say to use substitution. We're skipping substitution. So I want you to use the elimination method on your homework. Okay, so this is from yesterday. So yesterday we just did steps 3, 4, and 5. Today we're going to explore step 2. Multiply one or both of the equations to make the coefficients opposite. So remember, and I don't want you to write this, I'm just going to make up some numbers here. So yesterday we were working with problems that look like this. Excuse me. And we were easily able to cancel. In this case, it would be the x's, because 4x's minus 4x's cancels to 0. Well, today you're going to have to produce those numbers. And that's what it means. Multiply one or both of the equations to make the coefficients opposites. So the 4 and negative 4, I'm not going to be giving that to you all set up. You have to produce numbers that cancel. So that's what we're going to do today. And you do that, you make those coefficients match, but in opposites by doing multiplication. Okay? So we'll move on here. We're going to do example 1. And you can see if you just look at the problem, 3x and 5x do not cancel. 3y and negative 9y do not cancel. So you have to first decide, which do you want to cancel? Do you want to cancel out the x columns, or do you want to cancel out the y columns? And there are some tricks. Hopefully you see that the y's would be easier, because in the x column, I would need to have a 15x and a negative 15x. And that would take a lot of multiplication to do that. But right here at 3y, what I want there, so you have to know what you want. I want positive 9y in that spot. That's what I want. Because if I have a 9y right there instead of 3y, then I could cancel. 9y's minus 9y's would cancel to 0. So you have to first decide if you're going to get rid of x's or y's. And sometimes that just takes practice. So if I want a 9y here, the question is, how do I get what I want? How do I get that 9y that's in the red box? And you do that by multiplying the entire row. So what times that 3y gives me what I want in the red box? What number times 3y gives me 9y? And that would be the magical number 3. Okay, so if I multiply by a 3 to 3y, I get what I want, a 9y. So now you can't just only multiply the y item. In math, you have to multiply every item, otherwise it's not equivalent. So you have to even go over to that negative 15. So the entire row has to be multiplied by that green 3. Now there's nothing wrong with the bottom row, the 5x minus 9y, so I'm going to write that down. There's nothing that we have to do right yet with that, and then I'm going to change back to green. But on my top row, I'm going to multiply everything in the top row by 3. So 3 times 3x is 9x. 3 times 3y is positive 9y, which is what I wanted. And 3 times negative 15 is a negative, is a negative 45. So we just did step 2. We multiplied one of the equations so that we could make those coefficients, the numbers in front of y, opposites. So we have a 9y in green and a negative 9y in black, and we're ready to do step 3. Now we can do like we did yesterday, just add the two equations together and draw a line. So 9x plus 5x is 14x. 9y minus 9y cancels. So we got what we wanted. And negative 45 and positive 3 is negative 42. And now we're just going to divide out 14 here. So our x value is negative 3. So we just did step 4. We solved for the first variable, so we're working on our final answer. Remember, your final answers are in the form x comma y, so we found half of our answer. We found x, and the first spot is negative 3. Now we have to find the y yet. So step 5 tells us how to find the y. So we plug in the answer that we just got from step 4. So we plug this answer and solve for the other letter. So we're going to take x equals negative 3 and plug it back into one of those originals. I'm going to choose the bottom one. It doesn't make a difference which one you pick. I'm choosing the bottom one because I can see it clearly. The top one has a lot of colors and numbers and things and arrows pointing to it, so I'm just going to use the bottom one. So this is going to be step 5. So we're going to plug in here, x is worth negative 3. So right there for that x, I'm going to plug in a negative 3 in just a minute in a different color. So x is worth negative 3. We plugged it in there. And then just do the math. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Bring down the negative 9y, bring down equals and 3. And now you just need to solve. So I'm going to add 15 to both sides, which is good because this will give me 18 and I'm dealing with a 9, right? Bring down a negative 9y, divide, and y would be equal to negative 2. So I have the other part of my answer, negative 2, and I'm done. So these two lines cross at negative 3, negative 2. You can always hit pause during the recording if you need to. Okay, so remember what we did. We focused our attention on how can I get the y's to cancel. The only way they cancel is if they're the same number, 9, and one's positive, one's negative. So I had to produce a 9y in green on the top, and I did that by figuring out what magic number over here. If I multiplied it through to everything, I would get what I want up top, which was a positive 9y, so I could cancel. So this number 3 that's out in front, it's going to be a different number every time. It depends on what you need in order to get what you want. So let's try another one. Okay, so you can deal with 3x and 6x in this case, or you can deal with a negative 7 and a negative 8 in the case of y's. So most students are like 8 and 7, which I kind of agree because 8 times 7 is 56. That's rather big. But I think right here, what I want would be a negative 6x. That's what I want. I want that because then I would have 6x minus 6x and it would cancel. So how do I get a negative 6x? What do I multiply by? 3x times what gives me negative 6? 3x times what will give me what I want, and I want a negative 6x in that spot. So you think about that for a minute. The bottom one, again, I'm not going to be doing any multiplication to, so I'm just going to write it down while you think about that. Okay, so what number do I put here in that question mark? I have a 3 and I need a negative 6x. So hopefully you know that, you know that you should multiply by negative 2. If I multiply by negative 2, I get what I want. And I want a negative 6x. So negative 2 times 3x is a negative 6x. And you have to multiply this to everything. Don't forget. Multiply that through. It's called row multiplication. That's what you're doing. So the word is row. So negative 2 times negative 7y is a positive 14y. Negative 2 times the back 10 is negative 20. Okay, we just did step 2. We multiplied one of the equations and we produced opposites. So we made opposites. 6x and negative 6x are opposites and they canceled. And we achieved that by multiplying everything in the top by a negative 2. And now we're just going to go ahead and add up and down. So 14y's minus 8y's is 6y's. A negative 20 and a positive 8 is a negative 12. Divide by 6. So y would give you negative 2. So we're working on half our final answer. Remember, our final answers are x comma y. So we just got our back number. We still need to figure out the top number. So we did step 4. We solved for the first variable. And the next step is step 5. Plug in that answer that we just got, y is negative 2, and get the other answer for x. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to plug it back in. And again, you could use either equation, but because the bottom one is not all marked up, I'm going to use the bottom one. I can see it clearly. So I'm going to plug in y is negative 2. So make sure you do plug it in for the right letter. So in this case, the y is negative 2. And then just do the math. So 6x negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16 equals 8. And then just go ahead and solve. So we're going to subtract 16. So 6x will equal 8 minus 16 is negative 8. And don't panic, it's just a fraction. So there's no fractions on your homework, but I do present the fractions in lecture so you're ready for college. So don't panic. So x equals negative 8 over 6. Can you reduce that? Yes, you can. You can divide out 2's. Right? So negative 8 over 6, if you divide out 2's on the top and bottom, that would be negative 4 over 3. So that's our final answer. And you should avoid slanty fractions. Your fraction should be up and down, and that's just so you're ready for college. Okay? And there's a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to go into, but you should avoid these type of fractions at all costs in upper level mathematics because your answer can be interpreted incorrectly. All right. So there we go. So like I said, you do not have fractions on your homework. So if you're getting a fraction, then there was an error somewhere. So let's take a look at your homework. Just advance this. I need to turn the screen. Computer's being picky. Okay, so you have 2 problems for homework tonight. The directions do say to solve by substitution, but I don't want you to do that. I want you to do just what we did in the lecture. You're going to solve by elimination. Now your textbook is big into changing up letters instead of using X and Y. So everything in math is alphabetical. So if you want to change this to X and Y's, you can change the S and T to X and Y. You can change the M and N to X and Y's if you work better that way. If not, the order for your answers would be S comma T and M comma N if you want to just leave them in those letters. So it's always alphabetical. But you're more than welcome to change this to 3x minus 4y and 5x plus y. You can always change them to x's and y's. Just make sure it stays in alphabetical order. Okay? All right, thank you. We'll practice more when we see each other again on Thursday and Friday, okay? Get these 2 problems done and give it a shot. And the first one you want to shoot for right here, I'm hoping you see that. You would want to turn that into positive 4t. And on this one, you have a choice. You can either make this a negative 4m, or if you'd rather work on the bottom here, you can make that into a positive 2n. But you have to make a choice there. I don't know which one you want to do. Either or, okay? All right, give it a try. Thank you.